much lower rate, and that the U.S. needs to be bringing back more of the manufacturing. And I think many businesses would argue assembly, high-tech, thinking, technology, those industries, growth. Are we going to be producing more coal? Probably not. Are we going to be domestically producing more steel? Probably not. Are we going to be doing the final assembly of cars? Maybe assembly, but the parts are going to be manufactured elsewhere. And that's just the new reality of the new economy. I mean, throughout the Southeast, you see European and Japanese car makers building plants, their assembly plants, the products, the components are being manufactured elsewhere and brought in. Does that come back ever? It politically is a great voice to say to the coal miner, I'm going to give you your job back. But is that realistic? Does that job exist in today's economy and tomorrow's economy? I don't think there's anyone in this room that would say, I'm going to raise my hand and become a coal miner. And everybody here would say, hey, wait, I'm going to go work for a tech firm or a financial firm or start my own company. Everybody's hand's going to go up. So what we're not doing for those sectors is being candid and saying, look, it is retreating. And the political stuff, nobody wants to hear that. But that's the reality. Colleges and universities and technical schools are flourishing because those industries where they will be brought back in the U.S. The answer is no. But there's a lot of new industries coming up. And I don't know what many 21, 22-year-olds that say, geez, my goal is to go into the factory. It's a mind change. So like everything else, in every administration, there's pluses and minuses. Yes, Professor.
I don't think I need a microphone. Okay. We indicated in 1974 when I went. There is almost, thank you.
This one is not working. It's working, thank you. When I went to Rome for the World Food Conference, so I missed you. Yes. I'm sorry about that.
Let me get to take your class.
Okay, I just want to say I'm very intrigued by your lecture. I admire it, and there is a lot of theories that can come out of it. But I just want to say something a la what you were saying. I remember when the Great Recession came in 2008. We at AUC, the late Dr. Galal Amin, myself, and two other economists met in Oriental Hall in the campus you know very well and you like, and we talked about projections for what to expect. And I started by looking at a statement made by Professor Paul Samuelson in 2007 in the Herald Tribune, which was entitled The Financial Gods That Failed, attributing the whole thing to the monetary aspect and the lending and all that. Paul Samuelson, we knew him, he visited Egypt 35 years before that, and I had the chance to see him, and I respect him highly. And we were projecting what would happen. What I said then was, I'm not worried about Egypt. Egypt would grow at 5%, I said, because of the fantastic, wonderful power of the informal economy. Because in Egypt, when you get a recession, I have a car, say, in Egypt. I want to buy a new car, but the recession comes. What happens? We still have a mechanic. We have American cars, model 1922, which run in Egypt. We still have someone who can fix a piston, who can create a piston for the Buick 12-cylinder engine. We still have a third person who can paint it. So I give my car to these three people. After a month and a half, I have a car. You in America, you have to wait a year and a half to buy a new car. And this is how the informal economy can shield an economy in a situation of depression. 3 new jobs were created, and I ended up having a car. So I said Egypt will grow at 5%. In the end, it grew at 5.5%, so I was not off the mark. I said, as far as I look for America, And I was using all my experience, you know. I said, America, I will not worry. There is one characteristic in America, in one word, which is called pragmatism. Americans are pragmatic. Americans will see what is happening, and even if the cure is something they are not used to, they will do it. We were correct. In a year's time, it took them a year, but America did something which she called fiscal stimulus, which is Keynes fiscal policy, which Americans don't like because, you know, I'm a graduate of Stanford for my master's. You know, America never liked Keynes because he makes the government interfere too much. But they are pragmatic. And they call it fiscal stimulus. It doesn't matter, okay, not fiscal policy. And things went on fine. Europe, we have the European Central Bank, which from then and for years after that followed, they behaved in a way which my students, which I have been teaching in this room for years in introduction to macroeconomics and in it is money and banking, what you needed to do was to lower the interest rate. And they raised the interest rate. They did something which students of mine who are in hundreds, who are 18 years old, would say, you went wrong. And my students are right, and what they did in the European Union was wrong. So what I'm saying is something you mentioned before about economics and forecasting and so on. We in the past thought that economic decisions are political decisions only for us developing countries. As you, especially what we are now seeing in America, economic decisions are political decisions, so if I mistake not. You see what I mean? When Mr. Trump, imagine in the age of globalization, puts an import duty on something coming from China, which you use as an input for your own progress in America, we are stunned, you know what I mean? And I'm sure you will share me that feeling. So political decisions in that case matter a lot. And then when we go into deeper economics, when we look at the Great Recession in America, it is not the financial market, it is not the monetary system, which is a non-system. The international monetary system is a non-system. It is not that these financial people who were physicists and top-notch mathematicians, which were doing the model for finance. You know, finance books are now being revised. All their models would work as long as you were growing at a certain rate. If you are growing, this is tough mathematics. If you are growing at a slower rate, then you get what you got in the Great Recession of 2008, and this has been done in Imperial College, London. There is a tough article about it in 2010 to show the situation. So, as Ed Phelps always has been saying, the real reason was the U.S. economy was growing at a slower rate well before 2008. And so the whole thing is much more complex than it appears. And I just wanted to highlight these issues to show that in a situation like that, for example, in finance, because once something happens to a bank, it is frictionless. Instantaneously, it covers the whole world. Now, like the frictionless pendulum in physics, it's perfect if it existed, but okay, I finished. But it didn't, but you still, in the financial system, you need friction rather than a frictionless situation.
Sorry for taking so much, but I have to say that.
Thank you very much.
So Jonathan, you were here 45 years ago, and living downtown, going to the downtown campus, I'm sure yesterday when you came to campus here,
Coming through, as they call it, so many empty apartments. It's being said that there are at least 2.6 million empty apartments only in Cairo, not in Egypt. The real estate sector has been growing at a steady year-on-year, about 40% for the last, 12, 15 years maybe.
people think that if they put the money
in an apartment or
in a house,
it's much better than putting it in investing it in a time deposit and so on.
and so forth. And rightly so, because they, for example, they would buy a house for $1 million or $2 million, they keep it for 2-3 years.
Years and then they sell it for 5. Not really factoring in inflation. Where do you see this going?
You know, that element as I drive through, I drove through West Cairo 2 days ago, and same thing in driving here. In 2008, 2007, leading up, there was a couple of years of frantic real estate investment. And it was speculation. And everyone had gotten hurt in what they would call the dot-com bubble of 2001. And so they said, okay, we can't put our money into tech. Where are we going to put it? Let's go buy 3 houses. And we all know what happened with that story. There have been many cities, throughout the states where you see frantic building, whether it's for sale housing, apartments, and they get to a piece of it. Miami has been in Florida has been an element where by 2008 they said there was 10 years of inventory sitting, and what happens? It's one of the great unknown questions, and it can turn either way. When I see the unfinished inventory here, I get scared. As a real estate person, I say, this is a problem. Whenever I see an overhang of inventory or people, with exuberance continuing to build, I say at some point, prices have to fall off. They can't always go up. There's an index we use. We build a lot of rental housing apartments for rent. And there's some statistics that say that a person should not spend more than 1/3 of their income on housing. And if they get above 1/3, that's a trouble point, because at some point, they're going to be unable to continue to make those payments. So I look around, I see what's going on in the economy, I see what kind of inventory is there, I see what kind of prices people are charging, and people say, oh, it keeps going up, and I say, that elevator doesn't always continue to go up. So at what point have we overbuilt? At what point are people relying too much on housing as their savings mechanism? And I'm not a believer that up is infinite and that that's the best place to be putting all of one's savings, that at some point, trouble comes. So go back to China, that had years of furious growth. And what's happened now, the government is shutting it down, because there is a real estate recession in China, a very large one. I mean, if you travel to China now, you see a lot of empty buildings. What you're not seeing with the cranes for new buildings. And a lot of finance companies that finance these things, and insurance companies, now the government's having to bail them out. It's very quiet. But if you talk to the senior people in some of these companies, they're being propped up by the government because it's unfinished inventory, unsold, unrented. It's a problem. So do I look at that as a risk for Egypt now and for Cairo? I think so, yes. I tend to be more conservative, but yes.
Related to your question, do you think that there is a difference between, for example, the States and Egypt in terms of the financing? Because in Egypt they have a culture that we don't go much to the bank to get a mortgage as much as in the U.S. And as far as I know also that the United States, when it had the 2008 financial crisis, it was, to a great extent backed by the failure of the real estate industry, which is backed with a lot of mortgages and mortgage-backed securities. So do you think that the situation in Egypt is might be different? Because we have been hearing that the real estate sector will slow down and for 10 years from now, but it is not happening. And do you think that the difference is in the way that houses are being financed in developed versus in Egypt?
That's absolutely part of it. Sure, because the issue in the States when the markets turned down so severely was leverage. absolutely was. The people were leveraging up 97% of a purchase. But even with very low leverage, if an asset is not being utilized, and if someone else cannot come along and pay the same amount or more for it, then the market has stopped. New York is going through an interesting period right now where they've built incredibly expensive condominiums. And you go through at night, they're dark. Now, they're sold to some extent. Non-U.S. buyers, and people are parking capital from around the world because it's politically safe. So it's another form. And they're saying, even if I got 1% or no percent, at least it will not be devalued. But at some point, those two can go through a problem. And you say how, but there's always another dark door out there. So even the fact that it's low leverage or no leverage can have some negative consequence if there's no usage. I think that's the element. So it has to be a combination of low usage or high usage, low leverage, high leverage. Put the two together.
We have time for one last question.
Yes.
There's no need, I can speak very loudly.
Hello. Hi. All right. Thank you so much for being generous with your time and, allowing us to put all of these unanswered questions on your shoulders. So thank you for that. Now, I had a question about assessing risk when you know that there may or may not be a recession in the future, especially for, being a real estate developer such as yourself. So in the case of the US and in the case of the government shutdown and, knowing that very likely potential that a recession might be triggered by the next government shutdown, especially if it was as long as the one before it. So is there a way that you can potentially prepare as a real estate developer? I mean, to my understanding, your portfolio is mainly in the US, and if, furloughed government employees and the recession hits in the US, how could you possibly prepare for that, is my question.
Yeah, how do you manage risk? And that's one of the biggest issues that we face every day. We've weathered 3 serious real estate downturns in my career. And we have a lot of young people coming into the company today who weathered none. And they have a totally different perception of risk management, risk elements that are in front of us that I do. I'm not saying I'm wiser. I'm saying I'm more conservative. I think that's the element. So what do you do to manage risk? One is understanding your business. It sounds simple. By the way, all the elements, none of these are complicated elements, but we're constantly each week going back to what I would call fundamentals. And I have to reiterate fundamentals. Go to the younger folks in the office. Is this one of our fundamentals as we're looking at it? Did we talk about this 6 months ago? How is this fitting in? We have to change some of the parameters and tolerance levels that we're willing to move off of these elements. This individual talked about leverage. Leverage can be a good thing. Leverage can also be debt. Trump, throughout his career, I think if you would sit back in a candid moment and say, Mr. President, or Mr. Trump, as a private developer, what's the thing that got you in the most trouble? That caused you to have to give buildings back? One word, debt. Couldn't weather almost any storm. The amount of debt. So what we're always looking at is, where are we on the leverage cycle? How much debt do we have in? And when we look at recessions coming up, that changes our framework. Absolutely does. Because where we might be willing to put more debt onto a new project in an expanding time, today we're going the reverse. And it's interesting because financial parties will come to us and say, you can lever this up a bit more. And I go, not so much for the next 5 years, thank you very much. We're going to go a little bit more conservative. And my other people say, this is a great financial program. We're going to be doing it. Well, put your house up. And no, thank you. So leverage is the second one. And looking at where you are in time frames of new projects versus sustaining. And just daily management, here, a very simple one. We manage thousands and thousands of apartments, which means we have large staffs doing these. Today, our occupancies are basically 100%. I've never witnessed this in all the years. And when I bring in all of our managers for conferences, I go, this is not normal. Okay? You're spoiled. You're losing your marketing skills. Because everyone has to go out and market, let people know, bring people in. I said, do not lose those skills. And when you're doing your budgeting at 100%. That's not real. So you cannot give me a budget for next year that says you're going to have this level of occupancy, so this level of expense can be tolerated. Your budget needs to be placed on an occupancy of 92%. Bring the budget back. And they're going, come on, this is not where it is. Well, that's where your budget's going to be. So your capital expenditure budget, your labor budget, your operating budget, do it on 92% occupancy. If we achieve a greater occupancy, it's good for all of us. Bonuses. But if you're budgeting at 100 and we come in at 92, we've got a real problem. So we're cutting back on that. So our forecasting models are going the other way right now. Because saying, I see recession out there, they only see the good times that we're having now. And that's human instinct. People are going to forecast what they see today. The hardest thing is forecasting to tomorrow. If we all know. So we're changing those elements. So it's risk elements, it's budgeting elements, it's leveraging elements. And then, while we're still hiring and expanding, but very careful, like I said before, what levels are we doing it? Middle management? No. Young people coming in? Absolutely. People with specialized skills? Absolutely. But if someone wants a middle management position, we're saying, no, can't afford it. So.
Jonathan, on behalf of everyone here, allow me to thank you for taking the time to share your perspective and insight. I know it was a source of real value added for everyone here in the room, and hopefully we can leverage your being here to entice you and Nancy to make this just one of many visits to AUC. Thank you. Please join me in giving a word of thanks to Jonathan. And thank you.
Questions, thoughts, even if it goes along, send me an email. Love to chat. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. It's an honor for me to be here.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce someone who's very close to AUC, and his link to AUC extends back to close to 50 years. I'm not going to dwell on the details. Ambassador Karim Haggag is going to give the background, but I'm extremely thrilled to introduce to you Jonathan Wolf, who's the founder and president of Wendover Housing Partners. So on behalf of the AUC School of Business and the School of Global Affairs and Public Policy, the Prince Walid Center for American Studies and Research, it is a great honor to welcome Jonathan, who is going to talk to us about the U.S. economic trends and entrepreneurialism, passion versus risk. We're going through a time, and some people will say that's the case all the time, of changes, transformations in the economic platform around the world, but we're also witnessing populism, Brexit, the role of the big guys, China, Russia, ups and downs naturally, but also the tangent of entrepreneurship, something that Egypt and AUC, the school, but also other schools on campus have been very much interested in for a very simple reason. We are a
a population of 103 million. Actually, if you count the numbers, every 12 seconds we're receiving a new baby. So by the time Jonathan finishes his talk, about 500 people would be born, and we need to find jobs for them. I always say that the U.S. population is close to 360 million, and they are rightly so. They're not happy that they have 3.2 million people, I think, working for the government. We are less than 1/3 of that, 100 million, but we have 7.1 million people as public servants, and that's wrong, that's bad. The fact is, these people should be working for the private sector, that should be looking for entrepreneurial ideas, that doing startups. And the fact that 60% of the population is under the age of 25 actually provides the platform for that. People who are more or less technology savvy, if we look at the numbers when it comes to internet penetration, mobile penetration, and so on and so forth. So we have the ingredients, but you need to have the right formula, the right business model. So again, without further ado, welcome, Jonathan. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. And I will pass the floor to Ambassador Karim Haggad to introduce formally Jonathan Wolf.
I'll do it. Good morning, everybody. It's really a pleasure on behalf of AUC's Business School, the Center for American Studies, which I direct. And really speaking, I think on behalf of everybody in this room, it's a true pleasure to welcome Jonathan Wolf to the university and to thank him for his time in addressing us here this morning. A word of thanks also to his wonderful wife, Nancy, for being here today, and I know playing a role behind the scenes in making this trip happen and making this talk happen. So thank you, Nancy. Jonathan Wolf is the founder and president of Wendover Housing Partners. Wendover is a Florida-based, privately held real estate development and investment management company. And it's really in that capacity that Jonathan has been a leader in the area of affordable housing and has built Wendover into one of the biggest real estate companies in the southern United States. Mr. Wolf's success in developing affordable housing communities has really earned him a reputation as a leading authority in affordable tax credit housing development. He has also developed an expertise in creating public-private partnerships to bring housing developments into fruition. Jonathan is a native of Charlotte, North Carolina, and he graduated from Georgetown's University School of Foreign Service. More importantly, I think, is the fact that Jonathan is an AUCian. And I remember when I last had the good fortune of meeting Jonathan for the first time, and he told me the long version of this story, and he could tell you the long version, I will tell you the short version of this story. In 1974, Jonathan was a student and decided to take his backpack and travel to Cairo. And he showed up at AUC, and if I'm not mistaken, you weren't even registered to come to AUC. And he said, I want to do a year abroad at AUC. And since then, he's had a love of Egypt and very fond memories of this wonderful institution, the American University in Cairo. And since then, he has been an active participant engaging with the university, most recently in sponsoring a student exchange program between AUC and the University of Central Florida in Orlando. Having visited the University of Central Florida recently, I can tell you, as students of AUC, you should be very interested in participating in this exchange program. Orlando is a very nice place. UCF is a very nice campus. But it's really in that spirit of giving that Jonathan has agreed to talk to us here today. Jonathan, we welcome you with open arms to our university, and thank you for coming. The floor is yours.
Ambassador, thank you. Dean, thank you. Let me turn the microphone in. If it's too loud, I'll turn it off. But thank you all for coming today. It's a real honor to be here. AUC was so pivotal in my life, both academic life and later in my business life. And people say, one, how did you get there, and what did you do while you were there, what did you study? And getting a career first in finance, and then starting a company and growing the company, and they say, how is AUC a piece of that? So, but a later piece. That's the only guy who asked me if I would speak a bit about the U.S. economy and what's going on. And I said, first, one, I'm not an economist. But two, our business is heavily dependent on many levels of what's happening, not just in the Florida economy and the U.S. economy, but worldwide. And three, everything the economists say, I've learned to not believe. So if there are any economists in the room, less. So the best one, I think, is that you can get 5 economists together, and you will come out with 25 different viewpoints of what's going on. And then you go back to fact-check these folks. They don't like to be fact-checked afterwards. And I regularly go back to the folks and I say, I have your notes from a year ago. Let's see how you scored. Most do not pass the exam. So what I'm going to go through today is a combination of elements from economists at Goldman Sachs, who you all heard of, the Western Bank, Chase Manhattan, 2 hedge funds, and a large money management firm in Philadelphia. And I took a swath of these folks to see if there was any commonality of what they were saying, and to take a look at what their prognostications were for the coming year, to get a sense of where we are. The first thing that I think that everyone did agree on is tremendous uncertainty in the world. Business loves certainty. We can't plan. We want to know what's going to happen tomorrow. But where's the uncertainty coming from? Well, it's a couple places. The first, this is really the longest expansion period since the Second World War that the world has seen. And everybody's looking for when is that period going to end. Unemployment in the United States has reached record lows. I mean, we're down below 4%. And somewhere around 4%, it's thought that that's fully employed. So it's tough right now to find employees. What's going on in China is good and great. I would use the word angst. It's more uncertainty. We don't know what's going on with tariffs. Trying to set new trade agreements throughout Asia with the United States. And again, people are trying to price and figure out what's going on. For example, we were importing tops of porcelain products from China. And we woke up one day in the summer, as past summer, and prices had gone up 25%. Well, if you're building buildings and you get a 25% increase, there's no way you can pass that along. It appeared. Why did it appear? The tariffs came on. So, Brexit, another element of uncertainty. It's not just the banks trying to figure out how they're going to staff, where they're going to staff, where they're going to hire, but what does Brexit mean for certain bilateral treaties, trade? So again, it just speaks back to the word of uncertainty. The government shutdown that went on for 38 days ended up costing the economy billions of dollars. And we don't know whether or not we're going to have one again in another week, I guess. But what happens in all that is everything stops. I mean, it's hard to imagine. You say, well, how can everything just stop in the States? But you call a government office for something, and there's no one there. Companies were trying to list on the stock exchange, take themselves public. Everything gets shelved. So there it stopped. The central banks throughout the world are starting to tighten. You know, money has been cheap for the last 10 years. That's fueled a lot of the growth. But central banks now are starting to tighten up. They're looking at rising interest rates. That has an ability or a facility to bring another level of uncertainty because when and where? When are they going to increase again? How much? Which central bank is going to start off? And probably the number one element is populism. And then you say, how does populism figure into economics of what's going on? Because it's changing the political landscape. Certainly Brexit, we're all sitting back going, can this ever happen? Populism. What's going on in France today? Populism. The election of Donald Trump. Populism. And these were all elements that, if you sat down with the main forecasters, I don't think any of them would have been, if you said, will Brexit pass? No. Will Donald Trump be elected? No. Will the uncertainty in France come about? No. But it's happening. So this is a worldwide phenomenon, and it comes right back into every business decision because there's a direct impact on it. Last 10 years, real GDP growth coming up in levels that we haven't seen. One of the things that's happened in the last year and a half in the States is that we've seen wages start to increase. And that does have an inflationary element to it. Labor growth in terms of wages always follows profits. So it tends to be a laggard. Because a company will say, well, can I give raises this year? Well, they're looking at their profits from last year. They're not looking at it from, what my profit situation might be this coming year. So it's a laggard index. But the current cycle, the question is, and the ambassador asked me, is this coming to an end? Well, again, there's indexes or indices pointing both ways. Right now, there's minimal inflationary pressure, and a lot of that has to do with energy. And because the U.S. is finally becoming an energy exporter, or oil-based fossil fuel exporter, that translates back into so many elements of the economy. It's not just the gas engine you put in your car, but it filters into every product and the delivery of every product. So if we can keep oil around that $50 a barrel sort of price level, everyone says, okay, we can check that as an inflationary pressure. Global growth is beginning to temper, but more important, and this is probably something I don't know if this concept, but it's something we all look at, and economists in the U.S. are very focused on. We look at the 2-year Treasury bill rate and the 10-year Treasury bill rate. And there's supposed to be some sort of natural embedded spread. And when I'm losing everyone on that, just raise your hand and go to sleep. That's what I did for about 20 years. But those two rates give an index on when that 2-year starts to rise faster than that 10-year. What that is saying is someone is looking at a recession coming. Because they're not looking for the long-term rates to rise as fast, but that short-term rate, a recession means they may have to cut the longer-term rates. So we're coming up to that index again. And when you look at the 30-day, which last week when I left was about 2.4% at a 10-year rate of 2.75, that spread normally is about 100 basis points or 1%. And now it's dropped down to less than 0.5%, 30 basis points. It's a problem. Most economists will say that's leading into a slowing down of the economy. In the United States, the Federal Reserve is the one that controls the balance sheet. So during the downturn of 2009, they printed a lot of money, they bought up the debt, they raised the federal government's balance sheet to about $5 trillion. It's now down to about $3.5 billion, and every month they've been letting it go below about another $50 billion. So there's talk now about the Federal Reserve stopping that sell-off and keeping it there. Why? Because they don't want the economy to roll into a recession. But there is movement. Housing starts actually for this year are projected to decline. when you think about that, the folks that are building housing have to decide how many housing starts should I commence. It's not just based on immediate sale. But if you go back to that level of uncertainty, they're starting to pull back a bit. And that has what we would call self-fulfilling prophecy, because if they're cutting back because of their uncertainty, and housing is such a big driver of the U.S. economy, it's going to start to push other industries slowing down. Same thing for car sales. It has been going up rapidly over the past 8 years. No one thought that the United States would realize 17 million new car sales and achieve it in 2018. But they're projecting a slight drop-off in 2019, this year. And that'll be the first time in a decade that car sales have reversed itself. Oil prices, in terms of where we believe they are, there was some jump up on it. The inventories came down. There was some lost production. The Iran sanctions that Trump reimposed, that had some effect on it. But I think most folks are saying that the current level of production versus usage should be some imbalance in that $50 mark. And there's some talk that oil would spike back up again to $100. But I think folks are saying, well, that $50 mark is about where it should maintain itself. And importantly, in the States, the fracking business, which has come on in Pennsylvania and Texas, which has made the U.S. really sort of self-sufficient, they can support themselves profitably at a $50 level. So, is this year the turning point? That's what everyone in the U.S. is asking. Will this be the time that we actually do enter into a recessionary period? Well, inflation is low at 1.5 to 2%. Some companies are beginning to cut back. And now, folks can say that they're using this period, every company for a period of years likes to go back and take a look at its workforce and say, can we operate with fewer? Can we move out the C player in the company? So a lot of the larger firms have taken that opportunity and have announced, well, both in the tech sector, which we haven't seen for years, certainly in the financial sector, once again, coming on it. Notwithstanding that, there is still positive job growth. When we look at about 200,000 people per month as a sort of net number, where folks are saying, yeah, it's positive. If you're getting about $200,000 per person per month level, the unemployment level should stay a bit down or stable. Consumers are still spending. Their balance sheets are in the best position they've been in decades. Folks paid off their credit cards. The one area that is still expanding rapidly that is a problem for young folks throughout the country is the level of student debt. And I think everybody can raise their hand on that one. And that has a lot of long-term effects. And the cost of education keeps outpacing inflation by large numbers. So that has an effect on home ownership, people buying cars, decisions to have children. But overall consumer debt is at a lower level outside of student debt, and the consumer is still spending. Where are people hiring? Specialized. They're hiring young folks, people out of college. They want folks with skills. It's the middle management level. Someone who's been in the job 20, 25 years. That's where the layoffs are coming, and that's where folks are not hiring. So, still a bright spot with everybody here. Central banks are still accommodating growth. Overall, China manufacturing, the consumer there, by all accounts, still spending, but their manufacturing levels are decreasing. But as we go into 20 and 21, the ability of central banks to ease and affect policy is the question that the economists are all still asking. So, everybody's still half asleep. I'll skip this one. So if you take a quick look at central banks' around the world, what the European Central Bank's doing, what the Bank of England's doing. Again, they feel that they've got some room, they can manage what's going on, and if a recession comes, they feel that they still have enough economic tools, monetary tools, that they can tighten up a bit to deal with it. Gain financing, is there enough optimism within the banking sector in the U.S., Europe, Asia, that they're still opening up? Well, they're slowly tightening back, so credit is there. Is it as easy as it was 2 years ago? It's not. And that portends as well to say that the banks are saying we're looking at a recession coming at some point. The Fed last week left its interest rates level. They had raised, I think, 3 times in 2018. There was some thought that the first quarter of this year they would raise interest rates again, but they stopped. It's another sign that they feel the economy is starting to soften a bit. I'm going to skip back on that. So let's stop for a second and try to awaken everyone here and say, any thoughts, questions at this point? The conclusions that people have come up with are 2019, probably the U.S. will not go into recession. 2020, good chances. Yes?
My question to you, whether this impacts emerging countries, how this recession or with the emerging transportation growth affecting the U.S. So this means that there will be opportunities for companies to go overseas, like Egypt, for example, where the growth of 5 to 4%, and maybe that's an opportunity for Egypt rather than something that would be looking at.
It's both. It's both an opportunity and a challenge. Because people are going to say, where are the growth areas? To your point. Now, if growth is shrinking in Europe, the U.S., Japan, they're going to have to look for additional places to place, one, to place capital, and two, where can they increase sales? So yes, I see it as an advantage. The difficulty within all of that is once central banks start tightening, once monetary policies start to tighten, then companies have the challenge, how do I increase my growth and fund it? And then the decision coming back, can I make the net investment? Because capital is harder to obtain. And sometimes, what I always say is, the U.S. gets a cold, the emerging world gets the flu from it, because they stop. Notwithstanding the fact that they should be looking at these are the areas of opportunity. The emerging world is definitely the area of opportunity. I think if you take the whole continent, where is the growth going to be? Where's the growth in population? Where's the growth in demand? It's all here. It's right here. So.
No thoughts, questions, confusion? Yes, Ambassador.
Jonathan, President Trump, thank you. President Trump comes from the world of real estate, which by sheer coincidence happens to be where you come from. And I was curious, as someone who comes from the real estate sector, both of you also have in common the fact that you are very successful real estate developers. Is there anything distinctive about the Trump administration's economic policy that we can discern as having come from his experience in that sector? It seems to be the economic policy of the administration is textbook growth. The focus on reducing taxes, deregulation, corporate incentives, so on and so forth. Do you have any particular insight in President Trump's management of the economy?
It's a great question. So I'll put it in three levels.
Right, insight into it, probably not. I know a lot of people in the administration, particularly in the housing sector. Let me start with taxes. President Trump gave gifts, plural, to the real estate industry. Some of us didn't ask for it, but we got wonderful gifts last year. So I do thank him for that, even though I wasn't deserving of it. But when you look at tax reform that came out, the industry that fared the best in all of the tax reform is the real estate industry. Some amazing gifts that came out. On a social level, personal thoughts versus my corporate thoughts. And it's interesting, within the company itself, I'll have disagreements with my colleagues who are going, this tax benefit is fantastic for us. Isn't this terrific? And then I'll say, yes, if I'm wearing my corporate hat, but I'd like to put my social hat on where I'm going, I don't know that Jonathan really needed that tax break. Warren Buffett talks about the fact that his assistant is paying more taxes than he is. And what Trump did was extend tax breaks for me such that I'm paying less taxes than most of my employees. There's something wrong with that as a social component. But from the business side, we're all applauding that. The regulation side, again, from the real estate sector, interesting notion most people don't focus on. Real estate is one of the most heavily regulated industries in the United States. And it starts down at the local level, goes up to states, goes up to the federal level. And I hear tech companies or pharmaceutical companies talking about the amount of regulation that they have. And we kind of chuckle in the real estate business, raise our hand and say, come spend a day with us, and you'll really know what regulations are. So from that vantage point, I think everybody in the real estate industry is very, very keen and very excited on what a lot of his departments are doing to try to cut down on regulation. There's always this constant back and forth between over-regulating something and deregulating it, and what's the right level? And that's a constant conversation that goes on in every industry. The government wants more. Industry is going to be fighting back for less regulation, saying we can do it ourselves, we can regulate ourselves. And we're lobbying in both Washington and state capitals and cities, saying you need to loosen up on these regulations if you want to see more economic development. So Trump has been exceptionally good, and the people that he's brought in to those elements, terrific. And Ambassador, you have a third component, so taxes, regulation, and
Business incentives.
And business incentives. There really hasn't been that much level of direct business incentives apart from taxing. From an export side, and helping the companies in the emerging market, that hasn't been a focus. Now, he's tried to go back and say, what I'm doing on the trade levels is putting on a level playing field. Well, the argument has been for years that China has been given a pass, that they can come in almost any industry. They're protecting themselves through tariffs on U.S. exports, but at the same time,